It's support need to speak with your own place. Yeah. We need like support, yeah, resources, access to needs.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
just how to read the manuscript. They are using AI software like that was like wow. Like it makes so easy for students. They give you all summary. So everything.
And these are just for just to catch any stragglers once we get started.
we have to find, I mean, we need to
Well,
use AI to find them.
I would have brought my laptop, but they're updating it, so they're using me being out of the office to update my source. So I need to.
I just saw
Same I do, like I use pretty much.
So we're gonna go ahead and get started, everyone. Welcome to everyone here in the room and everyone online. This is our fourth PCD Professional and Career Development Program for this academic year, but the first one for the spring semester. And we are, this session will be AI in Academia, leveraging generative AI for advanced teaching and research. And I am pleased to welcome a longtime colleague as our guest speaker, Dr. Frances Matos. I have been, and this is, I'm about to read her bio. So this is not about me, this is about Dr. Matos.
Well, we're almost twins, so.
I've been at the University of Texas at San Antonio for 4 years, holding a split appointment between University College and the Department of Academic Innovation, Teaching, Learning, and Digital Transformation. As a faculty member, I have taught an experiential course in the Honors College, exploring the aesthetics and intersections of wall writing, from the graffiti wall writers of the 1960s to the vibrant graffiti and murals of San Antonio. I also teach a first-year seminar in University College called Academic Introduction and Strategies, which focuses on the development of critical thinking, leadership, and communication skills. In my role with the Department of Academic Innovation, I conduct both short and long-term consultations with faculty colleagues to revise teaching practices and implement new strategies and tools, as well as perform classroom observations. I collaborate on several projects. I work with University College and the Klesse College of Engineering and Integrated Design Faculty Champions Program. I'm currently part of the Generative AI team. I hold a Ph.D. in Latin American literature with a specialization in 17th century poetry and a minor in linguistics from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Urbana?
No, perfect.
I said it right?
The same colors as is here.
Yeah, it is the same colors. I have a good friend that actually graduated from it. Before joining UTSA, I spent 25 years at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. There, I worked primarily with technology, mediated learning, developed a series of hybrid and fully online courses, and spearheaded teacher training and development for incoming graduate students in their department. I also developed courses and training for teachers transitioning their practice to an online environment. Additionally, I have consulted extensively for higher education institutions and the Minnesota Department of Education on curriculum revision, content development, technology implementation, and faculty training. So if you could please all help me welcome Dr. Matos.
It sounds very, very long, but I'm very happy to be here. This reminds me of my favorite part of my previous job at the University of Minnesota, which students call the U, like it's the one and only, right? You know, they have, every school has its idiosyncrasies. So, so we went from the top of the 35 highway to the end, right? It's 35 goes from San Antonio to Minneapolis, believe it or not. So I stayed basically in the neighborhood. So let's talk a little bit today about this new thing newer thing called generative AI for advanced teaching and research. I don't need to explain to you that AI has been around for a long time, and artificial intelligence actually started in the late 40s, right? It was mostly for military purposes, for security and things like that. It was not for popular consumption, as you know. And technology has been part of my life for a long time, and I'm pretty sure it's been part of your life forever since you were born, right? And this digital technology, technology has been around since the beginning of time because, you know, the wheel was technology at one point, the abacus, you know, and those of you that went to preschool here in the United States probably remember an abacus in the back of the room. I don't know for what, but it was there always, always. There was always an abacus. So let's get started and let's see. This doesn't move the slides. Sorry. Only about technology, you need to turn it on. No. Okay, I'll just,
You sure?
yeah, I'll just click from here. Okay. Where is the,
Right at the top.
here?
You just click on the middle, I guess it goes, yeah. You just click
Here?
anywhere it might go.
Okay, so this is something that is not new to you. You know that,
Sorry.
it's okay. Why can you use this? This is not new to you. And we have artificial intelligence, like I said, since the 40s, and there's really nothing artificial about it. It's just mediated by electricity, basically, right? But there's human intelligence behind it, right? So, you know, these people that ChatGPT, Perplexity, they created these systems of information with our ideas, if you think about it, right? And no one has paid us to feed those ideas to the system, right? So there's something that we need to think about. So the thing about what sets generative AI apart from just regular AI is what, in your opinion? What sets it apart from the other AI technologies and tools, in your opinion? As experts users of generative AI.
It creates
Different is one thing.
it creates new content rather than just giving an answer from other content.
Okay, so let me take you, and that is what has been worrisome for a lot of our colleagues and in academia, is that we typically are very analytical people, right? We like to think about it, ponder, we test it, and then we evaluate. And generative AI does not afford us that luxury, right? It's happening way too fast. So we need to decide what we need to do with it, right? So this is a faculty sample, a survey sample from the beginning of last year. It was in January 2024. It was conducted throughout the university. It was given to students, both graduate and undergraduate. Very few students answered, as you can see, only 165, but a lot of faculty did reply. And you notice that the faculty are a little bit show at this point, a year ago, a little bit more interest in it than the students. Anecdotally, I think that the students were very interested, but they were not sure about saying it, right? Coming out right and saying, yes, I am interested, right? So we can do the next one. And we go from there to what happens in the classroom. And this is where it gets very interesting. I don't know if you can take a look and tell me, what do you think of those numbers and how do they correlate? What is the relationship between those numbers? How would you characterize those numbers? And this was a year ago, remember, right? It has changed a little bit, that scenery. What happened here?
Sorry, what does it mean for the students to allow moderate use? Does it mean that the students should
These are
allow?
the results from that survey, right? When they were asked about the generative AI use in class, right? They were both asked the same thing, the faculty and the students. So there's a little bit of
Someone
discrepancy.
is not telling the truth here.
Well, we don't know in which classes they were, right? Maybe it was a big sample of faculty that, since they are interested in AI, answered the survey. That's also a variable here that we did not take into consideration. But you notice that only 1% of the students thought that it was allowed in the classroom, right? And that was a year ago. But if we think, we can do the next one. If we take a look at the next slide, the Digital Council on Global AI did a survey 7 months after ours, and this was a national survey. And in that survey, 86% of the students say they use it in 7 months, right? Big change, right? I think our sample is representative of the student body anywhere, right? So that idea that using AI is okay has changed very quickly, right? Very, very quickly. And what do they use it for? Look at the faculty. The faculty use it for what, typically? For faculty things, right? For the meaning of life, for philosophical things like the ethics, sometimes to enhance the teaching. And look at the students. Most of them said that they use it for personal use because, again, they didn't probably want to say that they also use it for the class, right? But very interesting what they have to say, right? Look, they were more in tune. This shows you that they were a little bit more, they had a little bit more expertise with this than the faculty at that point. Brainstorming ideas. This is what you use it for, right? Brainstorming ideas, study and learning, coding. And I think in cyber, it's being used a lot for coding, right? Creative writing and content creation, research and understanding topics. So the students use it for creative purposes and also as a tutor, right? As a, like you said, your co-pilot, your philosophical companion, right? So the students, although they said they used it less, they were more knowledgeable and more comfortable using it to learn and to be efficient, right? So something to keep in mind. I have to say, from the personal use, is completely anecdotal. One of my favorite was that, because I did the analysis for this, was that a student said that he uses it for ideas for his tattoos. So I thought it was extremely interesting, right? So we're ready for the next one. And in terms of the future, who's more optimistic? The students, probably because they had played with it a little bit more than the faculty, right? And perhaps because they were not thinking of big implications of ethics and all that, right? So we're ready for the next one. So what are the main uses for generative AI tools in teaching and learning? We use it to enhance our course materials, right? To when you are teaching, when you go and start your academic life, and you have a room full of bright faces waiting to learn from you, you probably will use it to generate lecture notes, syllabus, quizzes, discussion prompts, examples, cases. I know that some of our colleagues here already use it for coding classes. A colleague in engineering was telling me that when he was a graduate student, he could pick up mistakes in a code like that, right? You look at it and your eye was trained to that. But our students have lost that ability. So he creates code with mistakes as an exercise for them to practice identifying the mistakes, right? So there are uses for that. And again, speed is the thing here, right? Personalized learning. This is really useful for students that are neurodivergent or for students that are not natives of English, right? So for example, you can tell generative AI, could you please put these notes in my language? Could you please give me an example that is more accessible, more approachable to me? Can you put this as a college student, at a college student level, not a postdoctoral person ready to win the Nobel Prize in physics? That's what their students are using it for, right? And we need to keep that in mind, right? They also use it for writing support, and that is problematic because some of them do not know if that is infringing into plagiarism. You are an undergrad, so you probably have that question, right? It's up to us to decide when they can use it, right? Improved accessibility, all those tools provide captionings, they do a lot of editing, improve academic writing, right? If you come from other countries like me, our idea of academic writing is a little bit different than academic writing here in the United States, where economy of words is the rule, right? I am from Latin America and we like to embellish things, you know, like we invented telenovelas. So what can I tell you, right? So presentation creation, and I did not create this presentation with generative AI, but I could have critical thinking development because you can ask questions, right? Our students are using generative AI to create practice questions for them, like, can you quiz me on this, right? And they can have these conversations. Or for example, they can put their resume there. Can you give me some feedback, right? And those are really great uses, right? And they are going to be employed and they need to know, you need to know, we all need to know, we need to have those skills. We need to be proficient with these skills, right? So we're ready for the next one. And this is for you. Interesting, huh? Generative AI, the paid services, manage huge database sets, right? That would generate some basic statistics for you in just 5 seconds, right? It can identify patterns and trends. I don't know if you have anyone in statistics here, but I remember I used to use NVivo, that statistic program, to identify trends. And you need to give a number and an identity to each participant in the study. And it would take forever just to set it up, right? The same if you use Excel, right? How many of you use Excel? It takes a while to populate those columns, right? But this is something that they can do. They can extract the key insights, right? What is wearing the students? What are the main trends in this survey? What are the main problems in this assignment, right? Okay, so literature reviews, when you're doing, how many of you are good about your literature review? I am, because I started by saying that I am a literature person, so I like to read everything. I make notes and I have lots of Sharpies in different colors. So literature review, yes or no? It's a place to start. You always need to check it though, right? Because sometimes they make things up and they are getting a lot better, right? And I like, for example, Perplexity gives you, how many Perplexity users do we have here? Cyber uses Perplexity, right?
Perplexity is not good.
No, Perplexity is also
Site.ai, it's better.
And Perplexity gives you references for everything that it gives you. It gives you references. And I have never written anything that has lots of references, but I check them and they have been real references because a few months ago, those references were what?
Just improvisation.
Because they didn't exist anywhere except in that model, right? Okay, so you can do a little bit of data cleaning. A lot of you have huge data that you don't need all of it, right? So you can put it in there. And statistical modeling. Statistics was not my favorite subject. We all had to take it to, you know, if you're collecting data for your dissertation. Do they still require statistics if you're not in that area? Okay, so that you can do something like that. And what I appreciate the most of what it can do is that it can act as a peer reviewer. So before, for example, before you send it to a publication, you can input the parameters of that proposal, what needs to be there, and you can give it to one of these tools, and it can give you some feedback, right? It could say, improve the tone on this, you need more this, you need more that. Now, what is the problem with
I
all
have a
that?
question here, because when we are submitting some of the content for the peer review process. So whatever we are giving to the AI, so it learns by itself, right? So,
Yes.
and we are not confident enough to put everything over there because it automatically observes the contents and then
And it will
distribute
give it
those
to someone
contents.
else.
Exactly.
Yes.
So,
So we need to be extremely careful. Copilot, which is the one sponsored by our university, claims, underlying claims, that it does not store chats. So it does, therefore it should not be storing information, the input that you put into it. But I ask myself, how does it learn if it's not storing anything, right? It's stealing ideas from someone, right? Or from somewhere, right? So we need to be extremely careful. I know that a lot of colleagues that use AI extensively have paid subscriptions, and that those paid subscriptions have a little bit of more protection, but they're expensive to have, right? I would say ask your academic advisor, your thesis advisor, right? What do you use? I would like to see if this is a feasible thing, right? I'm writing my proposal for my thesis, or I'm writing a proposal for a grant. I'm writing a proposal for whatever, right? Guide me a little bit on what would be the most ethical and safe way to deal with this, right? Is it worth my time? Is the risk worth it, right? Because everything that you put in there could be out there into the world, right? There's really no insurance that this is not gonna go out there, okay? So we are ready for the next one. Okay. There's a lot of colleagues here that are extremely, extremely invested in using AI in their disciplines, right? Some of them have created their own shell, they have done the training. We have someone in math called Juan Gutierrez that created its own large language model for some certain things. As you know, a lot of universities that have an amazing resource and repository of ideas have created their own closed large language models, right? Their own generative AI. Michigan, Harvard, Yale, and Harvard, Yale, they can have mistakes there too, because they're just using student papers and things like that. And perhaps, not all of them are so careful. The fact that they are big Ivy League schools do not guarantee anything, but at least there's some protection for their students' content and for their faculty's content. Can it be breached? What do you think? Can those
Do you have
models
the,
be
do we have the same here in UTSA?
extracted? What do you think?
yeah, exactly so. At that point also, no, it is extractable.
Of course, everything is extractable. How many times do you get those things that your email was in the dark web? Or your credit card was compromised? How many has it happened to you? Of course, that is the nature of the beast, right? You use it for good, but then people that are using it for profit or for, I don't know, not so ethical situations also use it, right? So, sombrilla, do you know what sombrilla is? It's not just the fountain on top, it's a magazine, the magazine. Do you read sombrilla? They're all over the place, right? I strongly recommend picking it up or going online to read it, okay? This spring, the issue for this spring had a section on artificial intelligence. And it showcased the work of different faculty members here. And of course, they jumped into the bandwagon that now UT Health is also part of UTSA. So this is very interesting. They all have videos. So take your time, go to the Sombrilla website and look at the videos. The UT Health has created the first in the nation, MD with an MS in AI program, which is quite impressive, right? Quite impressive. Physicians and MDs, MD PhDs need to interact with this. When you go to your doctor, what happens? Someone inputs your thing there, right? And then comes the doctor for 5 seconds, right? Then comes the doctor and they read that. And what happened? Some sort of AI summarized all that and gave your doctor possible scenarios for your ailments, right? Or the state of your health, right? So they need to interact with that, right? A lot of physicians are also researchers. They need to interact with how to use that. AI, generative AI is really behind all the emergency services now because they need to triage and they need something that can make those decision-making elements available to them like this, right? Okay, so I think it's a great idea that they're going to, so we're not having people using AI willy-nilly without any responsibility, right? So I think this is a great idea. A possible place for employment for some of you, right? How about that? This one, the top one, is from someone in the history and art department. And they created ROS, which is robotic resonance, right? And you know what ROS does? They have a video, 2 videos of it, actually. It plays music. And they created a system where they replicate what we do when we hear ourselves, right? So it sort of composes music. Interesting music nonetheless, right? Not what I would play on my way to work in the morning, but interesting, huh? So it's the mechanical plus the AI part of this, right? And I think that ROS project really illustrates that connection between real life and AI, right? That human intelligence and that human creativity feeding something to a machine or a system and getting something back, right? So I think that is extremely interesting. And the other one is 2 of our faculty from the civil engineering department, Ao and Kai, who are spouses. It doesn't have anything to do with AI, but they're spouses. And they have created a program, an algorithm that helps with the decision-making after natural catastrophes, right? Mostly earthquakes, because most civil engineers are also earthquake engineers, right? And it's the decision-making process which helps to organize information and give them a list of the priorities. What needs to be addressed first after a natural disaster, right? And this really gives agility to that recuperation process, right? So not much security out there in terms of data, private data, but I think it is a really interesting use of this, right? So this is what our colleagues are doing here. And I strongly urge you to go visit them, right? Because have you ever met someone that doesn't like to talk about themselves in academia? Have you? No. That's why we do this, right? We like audiences and we like to talk about ourselves. I'm pretty sure if you go send them an email, like I saw this in Sombrilla, I would like to you about it, right? I'm doing this or that. Because I think this is just great imagination, and that imagination is human intelligence, right? All of that is, all of it is being driven by human intelligence. Okay, so don't forget to, oh my gosh, talking about earthquakes, is that moving or not?
No, it's just a bad resolution.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so next one. Okay. Research proposals, again, let's go back to that. A lot of stuff that we can do, same as before, right? Drafting and editing, question answering and clarification for refining research questions and methodologies. I would strongly say, if you're gonna use this for a proposal, use chunks of information. Don't put your whole proposal there. But if you put chunks of information, I am not too sure about this paragraph, right? It will give you good feedback. And you need to revise that because it will sound ChatGPT, right? Because everyone else doing the same thing will have the same word choices in their proposals, but it gives you organization and it helps you organize what you're thinking, right? I don't know if you remember when you were undergrads and perhaps still now, how many of you are writing dissertations already? I remember one of the most painful experiences for me, a literature person, was to sit in front of my computer screen with my fingers absolutely frozen. You know what I'm talking about? This helps us with ideas, right? We don't need to tell them what we're doing for our dissertation, but we can solicit some ideas and some brainstorming, right? Okay, formatting, this is really good because you know the proposals, those of you have written proposals, how many times have they been sent back because you had the wrong format? Huh? Right? Some of the institutions already have their AI thing in there, right? For example, this is not science, but I recently renewed my passport. And it went through generative AI to check if I was eligible to renew online or not. And I thought, oh, it's gonna call me tomorrow. It's gonna send me an email tomorrow. Yes. No, immediately. And in 5 minutes, that application had been sent to a processing service. That is generative AI. That's a speech. That's a speed, okay? And again, peer review simulation. So let's keep going because also, as researcher, that is all of you, me included, and you included, everyone here included, right? We are researchers, there's the ethical considerations, and that is the big philosophical question. Not only what happens with our content and with our great ideas, after all those nights of hard work that we put into that dissertation and that paper, there's also other ethical issues here, right? If you use AI to create a proposal, it is accepted now. Most institutions accept the use of AI for a proposal, but you need to let them know how you used it, okay? My students are not researchers yet because they're first year students, but I tell them, you know, you can use AI, but you need to attribute and you need to tell me what you used it for. I tell them copy your prompt. And sometimes the main part of the assignment is the prompt creation, the prompt engineering, right? Let me evaluate how well you prompted ChatGPT to give you some assistance here. Risk. When you use generative AI, inevitably it's going to grab from here and there. Some generative AI detecting systems are better than others. Still, not one is perfect. Just like everything in life, we get false positives. They are because, you know, in our disciplines, we have our lingo, right? Don't we? And we have words that become fashionable that we have to use, right? If you go to LinkedIn, LinkedIn will give you a list of things that you should not put in your LinkedIn profile because everyone else has. Like, for example, do not say you're passionate about anything, right? That is not a good word, right? Or committed to. No, we don't need to use that word. Same thing here. So if you hit one of those keywords, it's going to trigger the plagiarism system. So we need to be careful. And we are the ultimate responsibles, right? We are responsible for our work. We are responsible for our content. There was a little bit of discussion at the beginning of all this in that in the Beloit survey for businesses about who is responsible in a big corporation if an employee uses AI, generative AI, and they make a mistake. Who is responsible? The company, right? The company, the big umbrella. And I want to know who was responsible for CloudStrike, because I lived in the airport of Atlanta for 2 days, okay? And I was not happy about it. And what do you think? You know, let's put our creative minds to work here. What do you think, talking about CloudStrike? What do you think, CloudStrike? How did it happen? What do you think? Any ideas? You know what I'm talking about, right? Is when the systems for the airlines and the airports went boom, okay? What do you think happened? Could it have been AI, abuse of AI? What do you think? Well, evidently someone didn't have their eye trained to spot a mistake, right? In logic, I don't know, I don't remember it was a mistake in logic or what it was, but it killed the system, right? And it caused damage to a lot of people. It stopped air traffic, right? So there has to be some human intervention here, some human responsibility, right? So we need to take steps to ensure integrity, especially those of you starting your careers. An integrity issue is a big situation, and it's really, really hard to come back from that, right? It goes with you forever. In this life, there's nothing secret, right? And we need to be very careful with that. We need to be accurate with our numbers. Do not trust the machine, right? Make sure well, in my case, I should trust the machine with the numbers more than I trust myself, but it is important, right? And the originality of your work and the pride of your work, right? It is your thing, right? So make sure it's accurate and honorable, right? So let's see what else we have. What happens when you go into academia and you are teaching students or you're training people? Like I said, this is happening too fast. And at this point, no one is really an expert on this, right? And if they tell you they're an expert, do not trust them because this is happening way too fast, right? Things happen in a couple of days. Look at DeepSeek. How long has it been around?
10 days, 10 or 12 days.
Ah,
DeepSeek, 10 or 12 days.
yeah, okay, right? And what happened? Microsoft Copilot is going to integrate it, and ChatGPT is going to integrate it, and governor said, no, we cannot use it. So, what are we going to do, right? No one is an expert because it's changing. Be open. Invite your colleagues to become experts with you. It is okay to be vulnerable, right? No one is an expert on this, and lots of minds together produce better results, right? Number two, if you're using it for the classroom, ask yourself, why am I using this? Why am I going to have my students do this? There has to be a rationale, and communicate it to them. We want them to be responsible users too. They're going to need this for their future, right? If you're still in UTSA, please make sure you put a statement. Because last year, and you probably know about this, most of the cases that went to, what's it called here, academic dishonesty, what is it called?
I think it's student conduct.
Student conduct, most of the cases had to do with what?
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism. Mhm. The students need to know how to use it, when to use it, and why, right? And finally, create things that give people the opportunity to practice, either the people you're training, yourself, or your students, right? Because we need to practice with this, right? And we need to bring it into the open, because if we don't, especially in the teaching environment, what is going to happen? Who's going to be using, and how are they going to be using generative AI tools for learning or for not learning? Who's going to be using it if we just pretend it doesn't happen, it doesn't exist? I'm not going to even mention it. What is happening? Students will use it mostly for cheating, sometimes not knowing that it is, right? So it is our responsibility to train our colleagues, to train our trainees, to train our students to use it responsibly, right? Okay, so how about the next one? Oh, those are only 4, but I could come up with like 35 issues that are still out there for consideration. We are faced with a very interesting situation in which we're dealing with a tool that is changing constantly, right? It's like the Greek mythology, right? And how do we learn? What do our students need to learn to succeed in the workforce? What do you guys need to learn about AI to be competitive when you go out for that interview, right? And how do we have this conversation with the colleagues? And more importantly, what do we need to know? What do we need to do to remain relevant, right? Going back to the slow thinking and fast thinking, short-term memory, long-term memory, especially for you. Every time we bring something new into our world to do things that we used to do with the power of our own minds, we're letting go of a skill. But we need to know, we need to make sure that we can still do it, okay? Even if it takes us longer than it should. But for example, I have a friend whose son went for an interview in Google. Mr. Google, our best friend, at least mine. And he has a PhD in operations research. They gave him Sharpie or whatever marker and a whiteboard. They said, can you program this? I would have died there, right there. Like, excuse me? What? I use ChatGPT to do my programming. He said, my job does not have to do with programming. And you know what they told him? Well, we need to know that you can do it in case the lights go out. So I have acquired that in case the lights go out for my students. So we need to make sure that we know how to do things, even if it takes forever, right? Okay. So how about the next one? We're almost done. This is the part with, we have touched upon all of that, but data privacy, copyright, and over-reliance on AI. Are we giving our thinking process, are we giving it to a system, or are we still in control, right? Our students are becoming over-reliant on AI, and what is the problem with that when they become over-reliant on AI?
They lose their knowledge, they won't know.
Knowledge, and what else? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. There's lost skill, lost knowledge, lost sense of wonder, right? And psychological effects too, right? They don't trust themselves if they cannot put that through ChatGPT. And make sure that you're compliant with policies. And talking about that, next one. These are the big conversation points right now in academia, business world, and think tanks, right? The issues about access and equity. We all have access to the free ones, but very few people have access to the paid ones because they are expensive, right? We've lost a lot of human connection skills during the pandemic, and this is fostering even more separation from human to human, right? The psychological impact, I was talking about that before. Bias and discrimination. What about bias and discrimination? That is a big one. What is the bias and discrimination? Who feeds most of the information into generative AI as of right now?
Everyone, students.
Hmm? Everyone, but it's the large population is white people, right? So there are biases there. We don't know where that information, where is learning the information, where is extracting information from. And it could be a biased platform, right? And the environmental impact. My students are very concerned about that. The environmental impact and the ecological footprint of keeping all these systems going, right? Okay. And the last one. Oh, if you could go back to that one. That UNESCO guide is a great guide. UNESCO came up with a guide for students, for teachers, for researchers, and it is the most comprehensive guide. So I strongly recommend that you look for it. And the next one, we're almost done. You know about that. That happened last week, right? I don't even recognize most of them. I do like Mumu. I thought it was a Hawaiian dress, but apparently it is not. And our friend DeepSeek is in that one. So we can use it at the UTSA if we are using a university computer, okay? And I would stay away from it right now because we don't know how much they're extracting from there. And it's very, have you used it? It's okay to say yes.
Sorry, I have a question about Momo.
Huh?
I have a question about Momo.
Oh, you have a question about,
Momo.
oh,
I trade on Momo. Can I do that or I'm not allowed?
he trains on Mumu, can he?
Yeah, because I was
Not
living in
using
Singapore.
University equipment. That is.
No,
that is,
my own phone, but I trade crypto on Momo. Can I do that?
From your personal device?
Yes, but I'm
That's fine. But you
I
wanna
have
use
my
for
account
any
is
university.
Singaporean and
Excuse me?
Chinese. I have accounts that are Singaporean and Chinese. Can I keep them?
If they're not in university-owned devices, or
Okay.
you use them while you are on campus.
Okay. Yes, just for trading. Okay, thank you.
And then I think we're getting to the end. I strongly recommend talking about things that are probably going to be prohibited soon. This is a really great source. It's from the University of Hong Kong of Science and Technology in collaboration with Penn State. And they have this great resource because they take every AI tool that they can access, and they give you who's a developer, the type, the access, and what I like the most is that it gives you drawbacks. For example, if you keep scrolling down, you get to Grok, and what is the main problem with Grok? You know where it feeds from, right? X. That used to be Instagram. No checkers, no reliability, right? So we need to know where that they're getting their information, where they're extracting information from. And this is really good. This was updated in December. it's updated once a month, right? And the last ones are just guides that are available here from UTSA. We can keep moving. And remember, we do have tools that are supported. Microsoft Copilot, Turnitin, and Creative Campus that has Firefly, that is a text-to-image creation. And those are all supported by UTSA. And if we keep going, there's some guides, right? The guidelines for students, the guidelines for faculty. I strongly recommend downloading them. They are really good. Lots of resources. The UNESCO framework, like I said, that is the most comprehensive that I've seen. And let's see, what more? Okay, remember that we have lots of events, some trainings. We have a peer learning network. Just go in there and join. The LibGuides has a lot of sources. We have a generative AI self-paced course, very short. It's just, I think it's 5 modules or so. And we have some generative AI news. All of this is under the academic innovation website. And I think that's the last one, if not more. Yes, there's one more. Okay, so more resources. We don't need to go through them, but they are listed by area. And micro-credentials, you being graduate students have no time for this, but Coursera, university invested a lot of money into this. And you can do generative, they are from IBM, generative AI prompts and foundations and models and platforms. If you have time for that, those are courses that will give you micro-credential. And Adobe has badges, but the badges from Adobe are mostly for undergraduates. And the last one is, thank you very much, and book a consultation with us, okay? And John, you will share the presentation with them, right?
Okay, yeah, we'll share with you.
If that is okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
We have tons of question on chat. Yeah. You guys first.